Please do not assume that Gonzalo Lira is dead based on a post by Scott Ritter. It's 5 p.m. Eastern on the 20th of April, and this is Fintan Dunn reporting on the claim by many people now going around the internet, and this is just one video I'm picking it up from, for example, that a post by Scott Ritter means that Gonzalo Lira is dead. You're jumping to conclusions, folks, based on what Scott Ritter posted. He did not state it from his own information. When he refers to Gonzalo Lira, he calls him Gonzo Lira, for starters, which is incorrect. So if he can't get the name right, can we assume that he's getting the fact that he's deceased right? So just hang on, everybody, and let's carefully read the way Scott Ritter presented this information. I believe if he was telling us that on his own information Gonzalo Lira was dead, he would have pointed that out first up as he began his post, because it's important information if he had facts to bring to the table. Instead, he speaks of Belarusian authorities pulling Roman Protasevich, a blogger who'd served a combat tour with neo-Nazi Azov, etc. And he goes on, and then he says, when reports emerged that Gonzalo Lira, a Chilean social media influencer, so he says when reports emerged, he's not telling you from his own information here. When reports emerged, who published online content critical of Ukrainian government, was kidnapped and tortured and murdered by the Kraken unit. These are all the reports which emerged. Scott Ritter is referring to reports which emerged, as he said. He's not stating that on his own knowledge. He says, when these reports emerged, the West is silent. Yep, the West is silent when these reports emerged. Free speech, he says, isn't a one-way street. To remain silent is to be complicit in his death. He's now assuming the death based on the reports which have emerged. And the death of all journalists who pursue critical thinking should not be a death sentence. Unfortunately for Gonzo Lira, it seems it was. Not it was. It seems it was. He's actually caveating the entire thing at the end there by saying that it seems it was. So it seems fairly clear to me what Scott Ritter is doing here is lamenting the fate of journalists on a day when we saw Julian Assange's path to extradition to the United States been greased by the High Court in London. He's lamenting the fact that journalists and those who try to tell the truth are subjected to these kinds of assaults. He's not confirming Gonzalo Lira is deceased. Now, having said that, and you can check my report I put up yesterday, and I'm going to put up some more on these issues. Having said that, my own working assumption that I'm making is that he may perhaps still be alive. I have no evidential basis to assert that, except for analysis. I believe that there are good reasons why he may very well be alive. I think we should take care that there are psychological operations being waged here which would be designed to dissuade independent journalists from covering this, right? And we saw similar kinds of things go on in relation to psychological operations involvement in the beheading of Nick Berg, for example, during a previous international war. And you can Google that and look into the background of that. An individual was indeed beheaded. So it's quite possible that it is merely that Gonzalo Lira has been detained by Ukrainian security services and that his disposition is at this time unknown and cannot be assumed that he is deceased, cannot be assumed that he is being tortured. These are claims which have been put out. They may be psychological operations claims. So take all of this with great care and take it slow. And let's wait until we have actual confirmation. I do believe we're just being a little bit too pessimistic about what the outcome of this might be. There is an intent, obviously, to dissuade those who report the truth. But the cause of those who are attempting to draw international support to Ukraine would not be aided by the brutal slaughter of an independent journalist, a fact which will be reported worldwide. So just take a little caution here, folks, with the reports which are emerging. I'm remaining despondent at what has occurred, but still convinced that we have yet to find out the full truth of what has happened with Gonzalo Lira. That's me in a video which I put up freezed at the moment. I'm going to play you some of it, a video which I just put up about Sarah, who's another journalist in Ukraine. Let's find out a little bit more about her, because if you do want to find answers, well, then I suggest you start right here. Let's check this out. And she's gung-ho for it, full on. And let's just take a little closer look at Sarah Ashton Carrillo. And there's her Twitter account. And there she is with, well, some burly army guys. We can figure out maybe who they are. She's a big girl. Of course, she would be a big girl because she was previously a big guy. And that's the background of Sarah Ann Carrillo. But Sarah has a bit of a background, as Vanessa Beeley for the UK Column News revealed today. This undercover operative says she recruited the Proud Boys for the GOP. That's a story which is also about this extraordinary individual who has just been around so much in so many important places, as Vanessa Beeley reported.
Liberal trans activist Sarah Ashton Cirillo reflects on the FBI investigation of her Trump loyalist opponent, threats against her, and the book. Of course, she manages to write a book about her time undercover, which was extremely successful, is that she is effectively far right. She is a Nazi supporter. And in my view, the FBI pressured her into providing this information and perhaps acting as an informant. But when I actually looked into her history, I found that she'd also been in Ankara in Turkey in 2012 and later again in 2015 with connection to the Syrian conflict. She'd also been involved in Haiti, in China, in Panama, in Argentina, with UN missions in a number of these countries. So this is actually not a kind of, I'm not saying she's particularly intelligent, but she's not a low-level operator.
Well, it's not interesting information. So I started this by pointing out to you that when Scott Ritter posted, he said that reports say such and such had occurred, that he wasn't giving his own personal information, which he had secured. He said reports say. Similarly, Sarah, in her first report on the 18th about the disappearance of Gonzalo Lira, she said reports say also. But in her case, I'm not sure I believe that she was merely reporting what she'd picked up around the ether. I'm afraid I believe that she might have had more direct information, and that it wasn't that she was acting on reports, but that she was acting on information she had received. I'd love to know from whom. I'd love to know how she could assist us in finding out the current fate, position of Gonzalo Lira. And perhaps we could concentrate on that. All right, I'll be back with more soon. I will keep you updated on this story, and I do hope you'll join me for that. But in the meantime, for breakfornews.com, this has been Fintan Dunn reporting. See you soon.